Pastor Chris Laughlin, Emmanuel Lutheran Church. Today's texts are Luke 24, 1 through 12, and 1 Corinthians 15, 19 through 26. But while those are the appointed readings for Easter this year, you really need to read all of Luke 24 and back up in 1 Corinthians to verse 12, because we only get part of the story, and the whole story is worth reading and hearing. Luke tells us about that first Easter, a day that starts with sadness, fear, confusion, and disbelief. Remember, the empire had done its worst and killed their teacher, leader, Messiah, and friend. The empire had won. But how can Jesus return from death when he's the one who raises others from the dead? Well, he had predicted his own suffering, death, and resurrection 3 times, but the disciples were pretty dense. In fairness, Jesus' life and ministry make sense only in light of the cross and the empty tomb, which are inseparable, by the way. So only after that first Easter can Jesus' life, teachings, and gruesome death make any sense at all. And the sadness, fear, confusion, and disbelief eventually give way to joy and understanding and blessing. This was the first Easter. In his letter to the congregation in Corinth, Paul sort of tells how the last Easter will be. And look, I know 1 Corinthians is tough to understand. 1 Corinthians 15. It's an old way of thinking and talking and arguing, but it's really important because it's kind of the bedrock of our faith. Perhaps the most important lines are, "But in fact Christ has been raised from the dead, the first fruits of those who have died, and the last enemy to be destroyed is death. Christ died and was raised to destroy the power and sting of death. We still die, and the world knows it. If you watch enough commercials, you know that our world is built on the fear of death. Want to look younger? We're afraid of being old and dying. Why do we have life insurance? We're afraid of death and its implications. Why do we have home alarms? We're afraid someone will break into our homes and kill us. The list goes on and on. Just watch commercials, and they're linked to fear. And the ultimate fear for us is death. And Rome knew that. That's why they crucified non-citizens like Jesus, to keep people in line with the fear of death. But we need not be afraid, because Jesus didn't stay dead. And as the first fruits of those who have died, we will all follow him into resurrected life. Because of what Jesus has done, we need not fear death. And ultimately, the last enemy to be destroyed is death. At the end of all things, when Christ returns to set the world right, and death will be no more, and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away. Amen. Happy Easter.